Alright, let me tell you something that happened in Lincoln, Nebraska, not too long ago. Picture this. A guy in a wheelchair, just trying to grab a burger, gets targeted by some biker thugs. Sounds like a recipe for a bad day, right? But what happens next? Well, let's just say one quick phone call turned the whole damn situation on its head in a way nobody saw coming. Here's how it all went down. The sun was already starting to dip down, casting these long, creepy shadows all across the parking lot of Jerry's roadside diner. You know the place, kind of greasy spoon, good coffee, and always some truckers parked out front grabbing a bite before hitting the road again. Inside, you could hear the usual clatter and chatter, people catching up or just killing time. But outside? That was about to change in a big way. This fella, Leon, maybe mid-40s, pulls in. Black wheelchair, sleek-looking thing. Not the rickety kind you see sometimes. He's dressed pretty neat, button-down shirt, faded jeans. He moved with this quiet confidence. Like he's seen some stuff, you know? He just wanted some lunch after running a few errands. Poor guy had no idea what was waiting for him. Across the lot, leaned up against these big, rumbling motorcycles, were 5 bikers. Leather, tattoos, the whole 9 yards. The kind of guys you wouldn't want to meet in a dark alley, let alone a sunny parking lot. They're laughing, loud and obnoxious, the kind of laughter that's more about intimidation than actual humor. One of them elbows the guy next to him and points right at Leon. "Hey, rolling thunder," he yells, voice dripping with sarcasm. The others crack up. Leon, he doesn't even flinch. Keeps going head up, just like they weren't even there. But these guys weren't gonna let it go. One of them, the biggest one, pushes himself off his bike. Big belly hanging over his belt, leather vest with a patch that read Outlaw Rebels. Real original, right? He starts walking towards Leon, that cocky smirk plastered on his face. The rest of them follow like a pack of wolves. Leon, he slows down a little. I could tell he knew something was up even if he didn't show it. He stops near the diner entrance, hand resting on the wheel rim. The biker boss, he gets right up in Leon's face. "Hey buddy," the guy says, dripping with false sweetness, "where's the fire? Or you just out for a scenic stroll?" More laughter from the goons behind him. Leon looks at him, calm as you please. "Just grabbing some lunch," he says. Plain. Even. Not giving them anything. Which of course only pissed them off more. Some skinny tattooed kid pipes up, "What's the matter, man? Afraid you're gonna run us over?" He makes some stupid wheeling motion with his hands. More forced laughter. Leon doesn't respond. Just keeps his eyes on the leader. Then he gets ready to wheel around them. Trying to avoid trouble, you know? But the big guy blocks his way. "Not so fast," the biker says, grin fading into something not so friendly. "We're just having a little fun, right? No need to be rude." For a second, you could cut the tension with a knife. A couple folks inside the diner peek out, but nobody's brave enough to do anything. Leon looks from the biker in front of him to the circle forming around him. Still doesn't show any fear. "I don't want any trouble," Leon says, voice carrying just enough authority to make them pause. For a split second. But they weren't backing down. Not yet. Instead of answering, Leon reaches into his pocket and pulls out his phone. Slow, deliberate. The biker boss's expression flickers. For just a second, you can see a hint of worry. "Who you calling, huh?" he barks. "Cops ain't gonna do much out here." Leon ignores him. Dials a number, puts the phone to his ear, says a few words, not even loud, then hangs up. The bikers exchange uneasy glances. They had no clue what was about to drop on them. Leon slides the phone back into his pocket, not saying a word. The biker boss squints, trying to figure him out. "What was that all about, huh? You think you're scaring us?" he sneers, but you could hear that uncertainty in his voice. Leon doesn't reply. He just wheels his chair a few feet to the side, positions himself against the diner wall, like he's got all the time in the world. That calm demeanor, that's what really got to them. "What you got, backup coming?" Another biker jokes, the laugh sounding nervous. The others join in, but it's forced, hollow. Something about Leon's quiet confidence was really starting to rattle them. Minutes ticked by. The bikers shifted around, restless. Their bravado started to crack. "Man, I don't like this," one muttered under his breath, but the boss glared him silent. Then it happened. A low rumble in the distance. Barely audible at first, but it grew louder, louder, until the unmistakable roar of engines filled the air, cut right through the tension. Everyone turned toward the road. A convoy of motorcycles. Chrome gleaming, dust swirling. It was a sight to behold. And for the bikers? It was enough to shut them right up. Massive. Dozens of riders. Black leather, helmets glinting. Jackets with patches, symbols of unity and, well, let's just say protection. They moved together like a well-oiled machine. Their presence commanding. The convoy pulls into the lot, tight formation, bikes lined up like soldiers. The outlaw rebel leader took a step back. His confidence? Gone. Who the hell are these guys? He muttered, but he knew. Deep down he knew. The power balance had shifted. And there was no going back. These guys, the new arrivals, dismounted almost as one. Boots hitting the gravel, a steady, rhythmic thud. Purposeful. No shouting, no grandstanding, just a collective presence. Then, the leader stepped forward. Tall guy, silver beard, eyes that could cut steel. He glanced over the scene, taking it all in. His gaze finally rested on Leon. "You good, brother?" he asked, voice calm but firm. Leon nodded, slightly. Still composed. "I am now," he replied. The silver-bearded man turned to the bikers who'd been hassling Leon. The ones who, just moments ago, thought they were untouchable. But they looked like deer in headlights. The rebel leader tried to puff out his chest one last time. "What's all this about?" he demanded, though his voice cracked a little. The guardian leader took a step closer. Imposing presence, enough to make the man flinch. "This is about respect," he said, evenly. "Something you clearly don't understand?" The other guardians fanned out, forming a protective semicircle around Leon. The rebels glanced at each other, confidence leaking away like air from a punctured tire. The skinny, tattooed one muttered, "Man, we didn't mean anything by it. Just messing around, you know?" The guardian leader wasn't buying it. He folded his arms. Messing around? Harassing a man in a wheelchair isn't messing around. It's cowardice. Those words hit hard. For the first time, the rebels had nothing to say. The silence was deafening, broken only by the diner door swinging open as curious onlookers tried to catch a glimpse of the drama. The rebel leader swallowed hard. His smirk? History. He looked at his crew, hoping for backup, but their eyes darted away. The guardians stood firm, their silence more intimidating than any threat. Leon finally spoke, his voice calm but slicing through the tension. "You thought I was alone, didn't you?" He paused, letting it sink in. "That's the thing about people like you. You only pick on those you think can't fight back." The silver-bearded guardian glanced at Leon, a flicker of pride in his eyes. Turning back to the bikers, he said, "Now, here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna apologize to this man. Properly. Then you're gonna leave. And you're not gonna pull this kind of stunt again. Ever. Do I make myself clear?" The rebel leader opened his mouth to argue, but the steady, unflinching gaze of the guardians stopped him cold. He hesitated, then muttered, Yeah, we're sorry." Leon raised an eyebrow. "That didn't sound like you meant it." The guardian leader leaned in, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "You'd better mean it." The apology came again. Louder, clear. "We're sorry." The leader practically shouted, glancing at Leon, then at the ground. The others mumbled their own half-hearted apologies, their bravado completely deflated. Leon nodded, once. "Apology accepted. But remember, you don't get a second chance to fix this kind of mistake." As the bikers scrambled back to their motorcycles, the guardians stood their ground, watching silently until the group sped off, their earlier arrogance replaced by haste and humiliation. The parking lot grew quiet again, the tension finally lifting. Leon turned to the silver-bearded man and extended a hand. "Thank you," he said simply. The man clasped Leon's hand firmly. "Anytime, brother. You're not alone. Remember that." The convoy began to mount their bikes. The rumble of their engines filled the air once more, but this time it wasn't a sound of fear. It was solidarity, a reminder that strength comes in numbers, and that standing up to injustice always matters. As the last of the Guardians revved their engines and rolled out of the parking lot, Leon took a slow breath. The weight of the past few minutes lifted from his shoulders. He could still hear the faint hum of their bikes in the distance, a sound that carried with it a sense of triumph rather than intimidation. The diner, which had been so quiet moments ago, was now buzzing with energy as patrons peeked their heads back in, exchanging knowing glances. A couple of waitresses were talking softly. "Did you see that? Those bikers were asking for it." Leon rolled towards the diner door, unhurried. He had dealt with worse in his life, and today had just been another reminder that standing firm in the face of hate and cruelty would always be the right choice. Inside, the waitress, a middle-aged woman with short blonde hair, gave him a soft smile as he entered. "Everything okay out there?" she asked, her eyes scanning him for any signs of distress. Leon returned her smile, his tone warm. "Yeah, everything's fine now. Just had a little misunderstanding." She raised an eyebrow, but didn't press him further. "Your usual, please?" he replied as he sat down at his usual booth. "Please, ma'am." Leon couldn't help but reflect on the brief encounter. The bikers had thought they could intimidate him, that they could take advantage of his disability. But they hadn't counted on one thing. Leon wasn't just a man in a wheelchair. He was part of a larger community, one that wouldn't hesitate to stand by him when the need arose. The silver-bearded guardian had been right. It wasn't just about the apology, it was about the message, about showing that there was power in numbers, and that even in the face of intimidation, one person could make a difference. Leon had stood firm, and in doing so, he had reminded those around him that real strength doesn't come from how much you can physically endure, but from your ability to remain true to who you are, no matter the situation. It was a lesson not just for the bikers, but for everyone watching. No one, no matter their background or their circumstances, should ever be underestimated. And in the end, kindness and respect always outweigh fear and cruelty. As the waitress brought his coffee, Leon took a sip, feeling the warmth spread through him. For the first time that day, he felt a sense of peace. He had won not because he had to fight, but because he had stayed true to himself, and in doing so, had inspired others to do the same.